We're not the billionaire market outside of Yellowstone, and we're not the resort market located off the interstate. So what is Sun Valley? Let's talk about it.
Real estate here in Sun Valley. The last couple of weeks in office meetings here at Keller Williams, we've gotten to talk to agents out of Vail and Jackson Hole. The conversations were really interesting. It was insightful to find out what's going on with the real estate market. And I thought it was just worth sharing some of the things I've learned and just kind of do a head-to-head comparison, right? I think there's always conversations of how are we like Jackson Hole? How are we like Vail? Or maybe even more importantly, let's not become like those. Now, to be fair, I have not spent any time in Vail, and I know the people that live there probably love it. And the same with Jackson Hole. Now, do get to spend a little bit more time in the Jackson Hole area due to the fact that we live close, we play sports, and we're there often for things like that. So with that being said, let's take a look at what differentiates these three communities. So we're going to look at Jackson Hole, Teton County, Wyoming. We're going to look at Vail, which is in Eagle County, and we've got Sun Valley here in Blaine County. Right, we're all in the same category. We're mountain resort towns, but I think we've all got different stories that we can share. All right, so here we go. Two intimate valleys. One's a resort machine. Jackson Hole and Sun Valley's populations are roughly about the same. The biggest difference here is it looks to be that Jackson Hole is shrinking per some data I could find online. And they are at the mouth of the Yellowstone National Park, which is quite different than us. Now, they are surrounded by private property in regards to its federal land, not private property, federal land. And that makes it really constrictive on what they can do there. So there's a lot of infill growth there, but there's not much they can really do. So prices continue to go up. And that's not because pure demand is there. It is a factor that there is not a lot of area to grow into. Vail in Eagle County is it's a drive-to market. It has Denver not that far away from it, and that's giving you millions of people who are able to commute in and or show up in Vail at any given moment. We all know Sun Valley is you kind of have to choose to be here. We are hard to get to. When you look at it from a simple standpoint of driving, we're remotely located, right? We are 2.5 hours from Boise. That would be our biggest airport. We have an airport here, obviously, but much smaller and harder to access compared to, say, a Denver or Jackson Hole's airport. So Vail is built for volume, and Jackson and Sun Valley are something separate. But I think that the Yellowstone National Park is something that is incredibly unique to Jackson Hole and brings a lot of people through town. All right, so Jackson Hole, let's just spend a little time here. The wealth in Jackson Hole is a bit staggering. As you guys look at this slide, the per capita income is $532,000. It's the highest in America. And you have the top 1% earners making 213 times more than everyone else. This is putting a ton of pressure locally for just normal housing, employees, and things like that. So you are starting to see people spread out into the Teton area of Idaho and driving in. So the amount of wealth accumulation in Jackson Hole is pretty unbelievable. Vail is a corporate resort economy. The top employers are Vail Resorts, the school district, the medical center, and the government. We've got a Walmart and a resort. The hotels there. Obviously, Sun Valley. I think the biggest thing that we have that would be we have a McDonald's. We don't have these big corporate entities like some of these other places do, right? Jackson has a Target. We certainly don't have anything like that. Sun Valley, we are a true community. And really that's what the Dry Fly Collective real estate YouTube channel was set up to talk about. It was set up to talk about real estate, but it was also to talk about the fabric and the people that make Sun Valley what it is. This was an interesting fact. to me, obviously Sun Valley Resort is a large employer. We've got the school district, St. Luke's, Atkinson's with its 3 locations throughout the valley. Power, formerly Power Engineers. Now, I know this sell was a little bit controversial and obviously had a lot of impact here locally. But I think it is worth pointing out that a local company that was founded, years ago here, sold for $1.8 billion. I mean, that is a really incredible thing to acknowledge, that a local startup here in little itty bitty Wood River Valley of 20,000 people could create a market value of 1.8 billion for a company. So really unique story there. Now, 39% of our residents run their own business. I mean, we are a true entrepreneurial spirited community. I think that is really fascinating. I think that's really unique. People here are creative, and they come here because they want to, and they figure out ways to make it work. So that is a really unique thing that Sun Valley brings to the table. Geography, right? So Jackson Hole, 97% of the surrounding area in Jackson Hole is public land. There's very little left to build in it. It is truly infill. If you go to Jackson Hole and drive around, you're seeing some of the older homes being scraped and turned into larger, whether they be homes, townhomes, condos, things like that. That's the only way they are going to get more housing, because they just do not have the capacity with being surrounded with federal lands. So yes, there's some scarcity, and that's driving a ton of it. It's not simply desirable, not strictly desirable. It is the fact that there is just not much room to work with. Vail, I-70, 3 million people within a few hours. That is a much different demographic than what we play with here. Obviously much different than what Jackson Hole plays with too. Okay, so let's talk about Sun Valley. We are off of the beaten path. I think we all know the saying here, I came for a winter, I stayed for a summer. I think that's a very true statement. But we do see people self-select here. We've seen that recently take place since the COVID boom, right? A lot of people moved in, but the lifestyle is not for everybody. We tend to be a bit isolated, and that's not something everybody loves. So we have seen people come in and they spend a little bit of time here, and they self-select, and they say, you know what, this community is not for me. And we see them kind of move on down the road to wherever is a better fit for them. Right. So people here really value what we have. And I think that's what makes this place retain the character it has. All the interviews I've conducted with the people that you guys have, watched, that is shared with everybody. Right. We talk about the fabric. We talk about the character. We talk about what this place has that's unique. All right, let's talk a little bit about real estate. I'm not going to go too deeply into this. I'm simply pulling data that I can find online. I don't have access to the in-depth data that a local real estate agent would have in either one of these markets. But there are, there's resources. It's the internet. We can find things. So if we take a look at the average price points for single-family homes in Jackson Hole, that's the first one we're looking at. $7.4 million. You take that down to number 2, that is Vail. You have a price point of 3.1, and number 3 is us. That is Sun Valley. And our average price point across all property types last year in 2025 was 1.7. So there's clearly a price discrepancy as you move from Jackson to Vail to Sun Valley. Now, that doesn't mean that we are less valuable than them. It simply means that I think we've got room to grow, and it's still an area, when you look at it just from a apples to apples standpoint, affordability looks much different. Now, when we play with the median price point, it comes down even further. And so I think that's a unique factor that Sun Valley has, is that while we're this luxury market, we aren't in the stratosphere of what these other 2 luxury markets are. All right. Self-selection. We sort of talked about that, right? You really have to want to be in Sun Valley, and everyone who's here has chosen that. They have picked it. They're here long term. They love this town. They love the community. They love that it's difficult to get in and out of, even if that is frustrating in the middle of winter when your flight gets canceled. It is a really local fabric, right? I think the fact that we have so many independent businesses is just such a cool story to share, and that it really makes this place, again, anyone could live in a large city and work for somebody, but you really have to want to live in Sun Valley and make it your own lifestyle. That's really cool. There is room to live, right? Where we are, yes, we are dealing with price constraints and issues and affordability. That is not something that we could disregard just because those other places are more expensive than us. But I think it's really important to know that we are not nearly as challenged as those other markets are. And so I know there's always this talk about more growth is bad, more growth is bad. And this is obviously a real estate person talking here. But if we put true ceilings on growth and new products, it's a simple case of supply and demand. If we say there is no new development to take place, the things that are already built only get more expensive. That is what Jackson Hole is dealing with right now. They can't expand and grow, so things get more expensive. So I think we really have to have this balanced mindset of growth to help pricing. And I don't want to. I really did. It makes me discouraged when people say just no more growth. That doesn't solve anything. People are still going to show up, and property still trades. So if there's nothing new to offset the old, again, supply and demand. If there's still demand, which there is, and supply is constrained, prices go up. All right, and of course, we were the first destination ski resort, right? Everyone knows that. Proctor Mountain was the first ski lift. Very neat. It's a fun story to share, and so that's just something that we get to hang our hat on. We were the first. All right. This I think is really important when clients and people move here, right? When I moved here 17 years ago, I loved Sun Valley. It was a place that I had been coming to since I was a kid. My parents were born and raised in Gooding, an hour and a half southwest of here. And we would come up from Illinois, once or twice a year, every other year, whether it was Christmas time or in the summer, and spend some time in Gooding. And then we would spend a little bit of time in Sun Valley. It always held this really fond place in my heart. And it was somewhere I always wanted to be. And so when my wife and I decided to make it home 17 years ago, we came here and we did what so many other people have done. We created our own business, something separate than real estate, and then got into real estate. But people here are choosing it for what it is. And again, it's not, oh, we're here because it's cheap or it's less expensive. They are here for that real town community. They're here for the fact that there is a lifestyle. Again, prices are expensive, but when we compare ourselves to some of these other markets, it is more attainable. So we aren't this large market right outside of a big city. We aren't this hyper scarce product area outside of Yellowstone where billionaires are flocking. We're attracting entrepreneurs, we're attracting families, we're attracting people that love what this place is. Access to the outdoors, access to great restaurants, and access to just incredible people who are like them, like-minded people. I hope you guys find this information informative. It was fun to cover. It was fun to learn a little bit about these other markets. And truth be told, it was fun to, I think, talk about how great Sun Valley is compared to these other two markets.